Hi, I'm Robert Horton. You know me as the programmer historian in residence at Scarecrow Video. I'm also a member of the National Society of Film Critics, and I am pleased to be once again leading Scarecrow Academy for 2022. Our topic this year is called The Art in Sci Fi, Science Fiction, and the Director, in which we look at some science fiction films with an emphasis on what some of the world's greatest directors have brought to this genre. 10 movies we're doing. We're right in the thick of it now, and you don't have to have attended any of our previous sessions to join us for the next one. The series is free. It takes place via Zoom on Saturday afternoons at 2 p.m. Pacific time. You can go to the Scarecrow Academy page if you're not there right now. Find the link to sign up for the Zoom link. Our semester continues on March 26th with a conversation about 2001: A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Maybe this movie needs no introduction, but here we are with the camera rolling, so I'm going to give one now and suggest a few talking points, perhaps in anticipation of our meeting on Saturday. Stanley Kubrick was born in 1928 in New York. Very brainy child who made a name for himself as a professional photographer when he was still a teenager. Became an independent filmmaker in the 1950s. A couple of notable movies that he made that way. Risk-taking films, I think you could say. The Killing and Paths of Glory. He became a bona fide Hollywood filmmaker when he took over the direction of the blockbuster film Spartacus, which was released in 1960. Went on to make a very daring, certainly for the time, and even for now, come to think of it, literary adaptation of Lolita. He made Dr. Strangelove, that outrageous satire, which is one of the great films of the 1960s, before tackling the expensive science fiction opus that we are going to be talking about this week. 2001: A Space Odyssey has its roots in a short story by Arthur C. Clarke called The Sentinel. Kubrick worked with Clarke on the screenplay, although the movie goes way, way beyond what is contained or suggested in the storyline. Along with expanding the screenplay, it took a great deal of time to make the sets, to develop the groundbreaking special effects of the film, and to shoot it. What Kubrick eventually delivered was nothing less than a happening. A challenge to the audience to readjust whatever viewing habits they'd become accustomed to, and a redefinition of what a movie is. Had it been released at a different moment, this may very well have been met with utter bewilderment and become a colossal flop. In 1968, it was met with utter bewilderment and it became a colossal hit. Kubrick spoke of wanting to create a visual experience, quote, that bypasses verbalized pigeonholing and directly penetrates the subconscious with an emotional and philosophical content, an intensely subjective experience that reaches the viewer at an inner level of consciousness, just as music does, end quote. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that 2001 should be viewed on as large a screen as possible without distractions. The better for it to enter your subconscious, as Kubrick intended. The musical reference there by Kubrick really hits it on the head, I think. Kubrick shouldn't have to explain 2001 any more than Beethoven should explain his Seventh Symphony. Watching this film is a mysterious experience, and for a film sometimes described as with words like cold and dead, a film that really bristles with invention and life. Yes, Kubrick's eye is trained on people and things that seem to be as deep frozen as the three hibernating astronauts on the spaceship Discovery. But there's nothing lifeless or cold about Kubrick's way of looking. The film has about 40 minutes of dialogue, probably all told, human dialogue that is, spread out over its running time, and Kubrick's great eye for the inanities of small talk is on display, especially in the scenes that involve Dr. Heywood Floyd, played by William Sylvester, a scientist involved in investigating a curious monolith that has turned up on the moon. The human presence in the film is pretty discouraging overall. In fact, we discover this when we meet the two astronauts, Dave Bowman, played by Keir Dullea, and Frank Poole, played by Gary Lockwood. the waking crew of Discovery's mission to Jupiter. They're just as colorless as Dr. Floyd and the other human beings in the movie, but they are surrounded by technological dazzle. The ship and its pods, the amazing centrifuge, and especially the HAL 9000 computer, which runs the mechanical aspects of the ship and talks to the astronauts. It has often been noted that the most human character in the film, unless you count the violent ape at the beginning maybe, is the computer, HAL. Indeed, HAL is one of the few characters in Kubrick's entire oeuvre to inspire a measure of sympathy in the director. HAL, I want to say it, but you have to call HAL he, I think. He is the only astronaut to demonstrate feelings of fear, suspicion, pride, panic, and other human attributes. Kubrick's innovations and ideas are fascinating in this film, but again, the experience is the difference. When Bowman goes out in his spacesuit to repair an apparently malfunctioning part, the sequence is played in something very close to real time, at least for a while, which is to say, it feels weightless, it's slowed down, dragged out space-time. Kubrick shows us exactly how things work in this sequence, partly as a way of displaying the new wonders the film has invented, for our future, partly as a way of establishing the reality of the ship, and partly as a way of setting up a subsequent similar scene, one in which the process goes shockingly wrong. And in one of those decisions that made Kubrick, the sequence is accompanied by the completely in our ears breathing of Bowman. We're in that spacesuit right with him. We can't much identify with the character in any conventional sense, but so often in the film, Kubrick draws us into the ice-cold gaze of Keir Dullea blue eyes as he stares straight into the camera, as though urging us to see our own reflection in that dehumanized face. 2001 is so enigmatic, especially in its ending, that it has inspired many interpretations, many proposed meanings. But I think we may keep coming back to this movie, back to the idea that the movie is meant to be an experience, maybe one that is not meant to be decoded or solved, otherwise understood with that particular part of our brain. When the film's final mystifying images fade to black and the Blue Danube waltz starts up again and the end credits start playing, I generally find myself with a big grin on my face, not because of the deep meaning of it all or anything like that, but because of the sheer audacity of the thing. Who would have the nerve to create this gigantic enigma and drop it into people's laps with such utter brazenness? Only Stanley Kubrick, of course, bringing not just his keen eye for technical advances in storytelling adventurousness, but also his pessimistic scowl about what humans have accomplished and how we will all end up. We'll talk about specific scenes, we'll talk about the music in the film, we'll talk about a few of the greatest cuts in film history, and we'll also talk about whatever you want to bring to the table when we gather on Saturday, March 26th, for a discussion about Stanley Kubrick's awe-inspiring film, 2001: A Space Odyssey.